recently I released a teaching where we were talking about the comment that Yeshua made that said, "Don't your own scriptures say that you are gods?" And we went over Psalm 82:6, and I have it pulled up right here so that you can see it. I said, "Gods, you are children of the Most High, all of you." And what I was really fascinated the most about was this Beni Aliyon, because Elion, the root of this means to ascend, and I'll take you through this so that you can see it by tracing it down. So in Elion, we have the high and upper, and it comes from Allah. So we're dealing with an elevation, lofty, as a title. So again, the Beni Aliyon, the supreme, the children of. But this is the root, and it means to go up, ascend, and climb. So if any of you have actually read the book of Urantia, now I will go and have read outside sources because I am a seeker of truth and knowledge, and wherever the Holy Spirit sends me, I go and do my searching and researching. My husband doesn't. He doesn't do any of that. He just solely finds his information out from the Spirit and through how the Spirit speaks to him in the scriptures. And so generally it's me coming back to him after he's shared something to say, "Hey, did you know that this said this?" So in the book of Urantia, it talks about the sons and daughters, the ascending sons and daughters of God versus the descending sons and daughters of God. And in this situation, we can see right here that this scripture literally says the Beni, Ubeni, Elion, the ascending children. And we already established when it said that Ani Amarti Elohim you are, that it was through the Aleph Tav, through the first and the last letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which we can connect then to the book of Revelation when it says, "I am the first, I am the last, I am the beginning, I am the end." And in Greek, it says the Alpha and Omega, but in Aramaic, it says literally the Aleph and the Tav. And it has the final Mem. And we've gone over many teachings where the Tav Mem is the completion of the twin covenants that actually make you whole and sealed and above and out of the lower waters of chaos. But I wanted to connect this to something else that I think is very important, because we can see that there's a pattern here that we are called the Elohim, the children of the Most High. But where do we see a process of this? And I was really excited because I was led to Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 15, and I wanted to go over this briefly with you. Is it was referring to a comment I had made about the second Exodus. And this was one of those things that when I was reading in my English Bible, I about fell over backwards because I had never heard of such a thing. I heard about the Exodus when they left Egypt, but I didn't know that there was something written about a second Exodus. So let's go and take a look at this. And I think we'll start back in the verse before. Therefore, and this is the mechanical translation. So, therefore, behold, the days are coming, says Yahuwah, or Yod He Vav He, that no, it shall be said more, lives Yahuwah, who brought up the Aleph Tav B'nai Israel, the children of Israel, from the land of Egypt, moving forward into verse 15. For but lives Yahuwah, who brought up Aleph Tav B'nai Israel, from the land of the north and from all the lands where he had driven them, for I will bring them back into their land which I gave to their fathers. What is going on here is deeply profound. First of all, this is saying that there literally is a second Exodus, and that through just the top surface translation of this, that we will no longer be discussing about the Exodus out of Egypt. So if that's the case, this prophecy hasn't been fulfilled yet, because we're still talking about the Exodus out of Egypt. And every time anybody celebrates Passover, dependent on if they're Messianic or if they're the Jews or if they're Hebrew roots, we still talk about the Exodus out of Egypt. But there is a greater Exodus, and I wanted to show this to you as connected to the Beni Aliyon, the children of the Most High, the children who have ascended. So when we start this here, you have seen if you have, and I'm sorry that if you haven't seen our teachings and this is the first one, I recommend going through many of our teachings to try to catch up or at least have a better idea, because I can't always start from the beginning. We have covered key many times, and it's one of those kind of the play on words. There's a key here for you to unlock something, but this also means a burning and a brandishing that has to do with fire connected to the seraphim. And as the seraphim, if you go and watch the angel morphism videos, you can see that these are those who have grasped a hold, kaf pe, of the sacred languages of light, and that bring forth a revelation of power. For those who actually grasp a hold of it, hand out their or hold out their hand to receive it, and then generously give it back, which is that of love and unconditional love. Then we go into the word Am, and this by itself, these two letters make the word mother. So grasping a hold of what mother is presenting us, as it is a measure standard of the oneness unity principle through the teachings of the waters, the Mem and the Mem Sophit, the waters from below and the waters from above, that connects you to life, Chai. And this connects us, Chai, to the Chayutha, the beast of Revelation chapter 13 and Revelation chapter 6. This is the first two letters of the Chayutha, those who live. And they live because they are given the spirit, He Vav He, the breathing, as ones that, they're the breathing ones that have desired this process through the Yod He, which is Mother's teaching. Then that's connected, Vav, to the Father's teaching in his revelation. And in this instance, you can see that this form of Yod He Vav He has a diamond above it. This is a cannellation mark that means quadration. We've gone over this before in the videos of the 144,000. And it also means a gift from God. So these are the living that are a gift from God because they've gone through the teaching principles of mother and father, who are of one entity. The mother teaches the divine masculine, and then the father portion teaches the divine feminine. And again, the reason why that is because there must be balance. Mother can't teach mother and father can't teach father, or else it's not balanced. This is a system of duality, and everything has its opposites in order to establish homeostasis. Then we have the word Asher, and this is the root of Asherah, and it also means to be happy and fortunate. And these are those who have fire upon their heads. So I want you to think of, in the English translation, when we hear about the day of Pentecost, where they had tongues of fire that lighted upon their head in that day, which was an anointing. Well, here we go. We have fire upon their heads. And in this word, we also have the word that means a prince, as Sar. Same letter symbols, the Shin Resh. And then we have the oneness principle, which is a teacher that comes, that has been taught, has been yoked and tame, and has been given the mouth to speak revelation that comes from the languages as a teaching shepherd of light that will goad and urge you on through the fire to raise you up from being poor and destitute to becoming a first fruit leader, which is what is all contained in the Resh. Then we have the word for ascension, brought up, to ascend. And notice on the front of this, we have the mother's teaching, the He, of the golden rule. That's what she comes to teach you. And this, again, is all established through the letters, the Aleph through the Tav, which is actually the very next word that has not been translated. And then we have the Father's teaching here, which he teaches you unconditional love. This is the process of what we need for ascension, and what I like to call the maturation process, through the language of the Aleph through the Tav, the beginning and the end, that is connected to the sons, Beni, which the root of this means to build and to build the family of Israel, the sons of Israel. And if you've watched some of our other teachings, we identify Israel as a group of people, not Israelis from the land, but rather a people group that have overcome their wrestle in the world, that are walking as the straight and the upright, who have become the teaching shepherds of light and will be seen as part of being El, which is the Hebrew word for God. And I already showed you in Psalm 82:6 that you are God's. and the beginning of Elohim is El right here. So please watch those other videos, but these are all connected together, and the Elohim were created in the beginning, as you can see in Genesis 1:1. We've talked about that many times. So these are the ones that have overcome the wrestle in the world and have become as God and are as God. Then we have the word, and this is where I think it gets really interesting, because we have the word land here, and then we have the word for land again, and then we have another word for land down here, but they all change, and you'll see why as we progress on. So the Beni Elohim, or the Beni Israel, they've gone through the Aleph Tav, and they were in the land. This is the word Aretz, and notice that on the end of this one we have a fallen Zadi. Now the Zadi is part of hunting and chasing in the material world. This is the lesser frequency, the lesser nature of the lower vibrations that we find ourselves in the inverse, where we got hijacked. And so from the land, so this would be from the land that's in the waters of chaos, because the Mem, which is Mother's teaching, is the lower waters of the living water teachings. And so this land is part of chaos, and that is again attached to us forgetting and not knowing that we are Elohim. So we're in the land of forgetting, and we must enter in through her teachings to start the process to understand the principle of oneness, so that we can be instructed and we can be raised up as being poor and destitute in the lower realms, where we need to hunt, chase, and desire that which will raise us up to be first fruits. And the word north also means to be hidden. So what we are finding is hidden. We're in the lower realm of the Eretz, and what we need to find is hidden from us, but it's still going to be a journey that we must take to hunt and chase through the language that brings forth revelation, so that we can connect and be filled by it while we are in our lower density flesh suit. Because again, the fallen noon is correlated to our lower density flesh, which is also known as the corruptible flesh. So these are those that are hidden in the world right now. You can even consider that as the bearers of light, the ones that have come as the light workers that are hidden all over the world right now in their lower density flesh suits, but they're here to do a job. So there's going to be a gathering from all the lands. So now we have the word kol. We've talked about this many times. It means whole and all, which is from the word kalel, which means perfected and completed. So the ones that are hidden are going to be gathered, and they are the ones that have connected in humility to Mother's teaching, her waters, her living water teachings, while they're in the lesser earth realm, that have been willing to open their hands to receive the power that comes from the language. Because again, this letter symbol here is spelled by a kaf pei, and the pei is spelled with a pei hey, which means revelation that comes from the mouth that speaks. So this cup has been bent and yoked and tamed by the sacred languages that bring forth revelation, that is presented by a teacher of light, Lamed, that comes to instruct the way of mother and father, that will present the door to you, which is really for you to understand that this information comes by accessing your inner man, by going into your heart, the inward place where knowledge dwells, if we can just tap ourselves into it. And the language is really the key of unlocking that information on a more rapid pace than spending like 40 years in meditation, because really time is compressed so much we don't have 40 years to complete that task anymore. So this is the quicker route, but it does require study. But notice now we have Oretz, which we had before, but it was the fallen Zadi. And it was saying that what we needed to find was in a spiritual journey, a spiritual path, not the material one, not the material journey in the world of materialism, but the spiritual journey that raises us up. And now we have the Eretz that has no longer a fallen Zadi. This is the Eretz, the lands that have been risen out of materialism into spiritualism, because of the journey that everyone is choosing to take. And so because this has an added hey on the front, it's telling us that this earth, the lands that had the fallen Zadi of materialism are going to be revealed as now having been raised. So think of new earth, if you would like, the new lands. And in this situation, I love this because it's Mother's revelation and her teachings that are going to understand the oneness principle that leads us and raises us. And this is also part of the word that we have for light, or that reveals the light to us through the spiritual journey where we hunt and chase what we need to be connected to the Father in His teaching, filling us up so we can receive His mark, the mark of the Kayutha, the mark, the beast of Revelation chapter 13, of unconditional love. And I must say that Revelation chapter 13, it is not an accident that it's chapter 13, because the number 13 is directly related as the gematria of the Hebrew word that means love. So this is a new earth, a new place that is going to be marked with unconditional love. And that is what we are going into. And we're seeing the process right here in the book of Jeremiah. And then we have Asher again, the happy and fortunate ones that have fire upon their heads, which is the root of Asherah, the queen of heaven, which if you haven't seen those videos, I highly recommend that you watch so that you know who the queen of heaven is, because we've been lied to about her. And we have the word here that means has driven them. And when we look at it, it talks about driving away or banishing. But let's chase this down a little bit further, because there's something that's interesting that you will see already. It has a noon in the root, so keep that in mind. And as we go down here, it means to push off, to expel, to mislead, and to afflict. And if you have watched any of Ken's teachings, he has been talking about the fact that since we forgot that we are Elohim, it is very easy for us to, to be misled and to have even like demonic oppression in our life because we don't remember who we are. And because we don't remember who we are, it's easy for us to miss the mark, the direction that we need to go in. So when we go back and we take a look at this, we had the noon in the root. If I can get it there, there we go. We had the noon in the root, and it is not in the word. But before we move out of here, take a look at what we see right here with Deuteronomy 4:19. Will be drawn away and worship. Being drawn away, this is the word right here that they're translating as drawn away. And what is drawing us away? The Father's teaching, the mark, sine wave, frequency, signature change of unconditional love, which is directly connected to worship. And I will tell you that worship, the root of it does not have a tav in it, but pretty much every time you see the word worship in the Old Testament, the tav has been placed within it, which means you have been marked within with a covenant of love. And this is a strong Geesh, which means there's two covenants that have become one that is now within your heart. There's a lot going on here. So when we take a look back at the scripture, we notice that the noon isn't here. It's a hey, and then the noon has been removed. Whenever a noon was moved, which has to do with our flesh, whether it's incorruptible flesh or corruptible flesh in the activity of life, when it is removed, it means that this is a highly spiritual issue not pertaining to the flesh whatsoever. So being driven or thrust out has to do with the fact that there was something that happened with our spirit as we fell into this place, tohu bohu, where we had to gather the pieces so we could reclaim the spirit part of us by going through the door of our heart, the inward man, where revelation comes, so that we can get the power within our heart and the direction we need to, as those who are set apart from those who are on the outside of the covenant, and complete our journey in the waters of chaos to now be set as one who is set in the waters above. And moving on, I will land the plane here. I know there's a lot, but just listen with your spirit if you can't track with the words. So we've been thrust into this lower world of tohu bohu, where we're seeking questions or answers to our questions, hence the word Sheol, which means Hades and hell, that we live in hell right now seeking answers, but the answers are to be found and through the living water teachings so that we can get out of the waters of chaos. And the very next word is there. And this means to set and put into place. But notice it's the word Shem. So the difference between the waters below, Mayim, and the waters above, Shamayim, is what you see that I've highlighted right here, Shem. Those who are of the name. Those who have gone through the purifying fires and the living waters that have been marked, that are conspicuous, a mark of individuality having honor, authority, and character that are going to be revealed and have the Father's teaching, that revelation. So these people are going to be revealed as part of the name, and they carry revelation with them. And here, you guys, we have the word Shabbat. We've been talking much about Shabbat and what it means, that it really is the fiery love. That Shabbat, the day a week that we set aside from everything else, the whole intention of it was that we would take that one day out of our busy schedules to seek and find and build love through the process of 222. The two paths that go through the 22 letters that build the daughters, which is a liquid measurement, but of how to build strong love. And this word Shabbat also has the word that means shuv, to turn, which is also connected to the same word that means to marry. So we turn as those who are already married that are going through the consuming fires in order to build the strong love. And how did they do that? Well, they had to start in humility, connecting in humility, Vav, to the revelation of Mother, where she would teach us about the Sabbath and the purpose of it, so that through the process of turning and building love, turning and then building love, we would be given the power from the Father's teaching, His vision, in order to build and complete the water journey to be set above. And here we have into, but it also is the root Allah, to ascend, to be the highest, so that you are given the eyes to see, having the fountains of living water opened within you, to see the purpose of the teaching shepherd of light that is now connected to their land. This is where I was wanting to get to. So we went through the three lands. We first had the first land, which was the fallen Zadi, and where we were going to find what we needed to, but it was hidden in what they say is the north. And then we got to the point where it was the risen Zadi, filled with love. And now we are at the place, by shuving, turning back, turning, returning, building love, ascending, that it now is Adamatam. Adam, the root of this is Adamah. So it's Adam with the hay on it. The one blood, the one family. They are unified. They've gone through the door. They've gone through the teachings. They have the twin teachings, and they have the covenant of unconditional love that is between the two waters that has been separated. So some of you who haven't heard this before, this picture right here is the divided waters, that when the people went through the Red Sea, or the Red Sea that Moshe took them through, we have the Tav right in the middle, and this is called the covenant of the pieces, which is actually connected to Dam, to blood, which has to do with the covenant of promise. It has nothing to do with animal sacrifice. It has to do with that which is already in our blood as created living beings of light. And they will have the mark of the Kayutha, of unconditional water. These are the happy, fortunate ones that again have fire upon their heads. They have been anointed. In this word Natan, the root of it is Nun, Tav Nun, and it means to give. So you can see it, to give and to put. But in this way, and so it's a Nun, Tav Nun. But in this situation, when we look at it, there is no fallen Nun. That has been removed. So what is he giving? What have we been given? We have been given the spiritual path to take, which is the activity of life, which is the seed of life that gives us a strong foundation to stand upon. And it produces heirs to the throne through the twin covenants of mother and father, which is the pattern on top of the Ark of the Covenant. which is also known as the Ark of the Testimony, where they are going to be given the power that comes from the Father to give away and teach that of unconditional love. And why do I say that? Because the very next word is lamed. They are going to give love as the teachers of the Father that have been connected to and filled up with unconditional love because they completed their journey through the tome process, the twin covenants. These are going to be coming as the teachers that are as the representation of Father. So when you hear that Father is returning, this is the process of the children that of the Beni Aliyon that are coming as a representation as the teaching shepherds of light of the Father. These are the fathers that are coming that started the process through and as mothers in the earth first that found life. I hope this made sense. This was a lot that I shared with you guys, but I wanted to connect to it because of the previous video that I sent out regarding the prophecy of the Hebrew movement that would come as the fourth and final stage. And one thing that I didn't mention in there, but it ties directly to this verse, is when we were looking at the word right here, the Yod He Vav He, Yahuwah, it has the diamond on it. This is the quadration. So if you've watched any of my videos on the 144,000, we talked about quadration as the wholehearted ones, and it ties in, if you want to connect it, I see it, but you don't have to the movement of the Spirit in the four phases that was going to give us our lift, our ascension, our lift, and our power and glory. And Ken has been discussing that quite extensively in the last videos. Well, geez, that we've been releasing for like the last 3 and 4 weeks. So all of this is being released right now to connect the dots in the 10 days of light as we are revealing some of the most amazing things that I have ever seen in my whole life in trying to find truth at all cost, having the willingness to audit everything that I once knew that I built my foundation upon so that I can strip away the things that do not serve me any longer, to be able to put forth the things that do, so that I too can become and remember that I am Elohim, the beginning and the end, the ones that have completed their journey as the Beni Aliyon, as those that are the children that have ascended, completing their journey, completely filling their cup, grasping hold of the two languages, one of mother, one of father, one of Hebrew, one of Aramaic, the teaching shepherds of light that have completed their journey and are here to assist the rest of the world. Hope this helped. This was very exciting for me to see, and I was even more excited to share it with you. Please ask questions if you don't understand. I will do my best to try to answer them for you. And we are still talking about putting classes together so that you guys can begin to dig this out for yourself and be able to have your daily manna and get just as excited about these nuggets as my husband and I do every morning. So, shalom, shalom, and namaste.